Good evening, everybody. We're going to open up the Board of Selectmen Wednesday meeting of May 4th, 2005. I'm going to start off with the Pledge of Allegiance like we normally do.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I want to welcome Robert Pasquale, new selectman, and Mr. Joseph Notaro as new selectman for the town of Clifton. Congratulations and good luck to you.
Thank you.
And next order of business, we're going to reorganize the Board of Selectmen. So with that being said, we'll accept nominations for chairman of the Board of Selectmen. Nominations are open at this time.
Mr. Chairman, I'll nominate Mark Elworthy for chairman.
Selectman Blazillo has nominated Selectman Mark Elworthy for chair. Any other further nominations?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to nominate you, Stephen Mendoza.
Selectman Notaro has nominated Stephen Mendoza. Any other further nominations? With that being said, I close all nominations for the chairman. All in favor for Mark Ellsworthy?
Aye.
Aye.
That's three votes for that, so we don't need to move any further. Congratulations, Mark.
Thanks.
We'll pass it over to Mark now.
Change seats.
Yeah, he goes in there.
Just the first meeting. Joe. That kind of stabilizes unless someone's to continue the organizational process. We'll take nominations for vice chair.
Mr. Chairman, I nominate Philip Blazillo.
Any other nominations? None. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Nominations for the clerk.
Mr. Chairman, I'll nominate Stephen Mendoza for clerk.
Any other
On discussion. Thank you very much, but I'm not accepting nominations for any positions. Thank you.
Any other nominations? Nominate Joe Notaro.
Is that under discussion?
Sure.
I'd like to decline that.
Okay.
It's my first term on the board. I
Okay.
got to do that.
That's fine. I will nominate Bob Pasquale.
No, accept.
All in favor of Bob Pasquale?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, next up on the agenda is the, first up, before we move on, I appreciate the support of my fellow board members, and as Selectman Mendoza said as we kicked off the meeting, I'd like to welcome both Joe and Bob to the board, and I look forward to serving with you over the next year. We have a lot of challenges ahead of us, but hopefully we can all work hard together to get things accomplished. First on the agenda is a review of the minutes. For those sitting board members, we have a couple meetings prior to the election to vote on. What's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to accept the minutes.
Is there a second? Any discussion? Being none, all in favor?
Aye.
I abstain.
Yeah, I'm going to abstain also.
Yep. So 3 in favor, 2 abstain. All right. Next on the agenda is administrative business. Mike, if you'd like to go over your report.
Chairman, there's just one item that we're asking for the board to review tonight. The police department the police chief has submitted a transfer request for overtime in the amount of $16,500 and also for heat light power for the station at $6,000. The most critical is overtime in order to continue payroll. He's just about depleted in that account. So if the board is willing to review this and to approve it.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we grant the transfer the police chief is requesting.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? I guess one question I'd have, Mike, under discussion is, we're coming to the point in the year where if there are unused funds in some of the budgets, we could possibly utilize those rather than going to a reserve fund.
Exactly. I think these requests would closely deplete the reserve fund at this point because we've had several requests to date. But you're right, starting May 1st, we now can, with the selectmen's approval in concurrence of the finance committee, we can move funds from different line items within departments and between departments as well. So we could try and put together a list of items that people feel they're not going to totally spend for the year and maybe transfer them around to make sure we continue operations for the remainder of the year. So we'll try for the next meeting to get that together and work with the accountant, coming up with a list of where we think there's going to be overages and underfunding, and then the selectmen can deliberate on that and make some transfers. We can do that for any time. For FY04 and FY05, for the periods of May and June, so we're now able to do that. There's some discussion in the legislature of extending that into the future, but at this point, we did do it last year, and this will be our last opportunity to do it unless they change that provision. So
Hopefully they do change that provision.
it's been good. I think it's saved the town from having to call a special town meeting just to transfer funds or to pay bills or whatever to get through the end of the year. So it's really been a cost savings to the town to be able to do this. And again, this year, at least we can take advantage of it one more time. So, thank you.
All in favor of the request for the transfer to the finance committee? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
So I had the formal action.
Okay. They may kick it back to us, Mike, because of their funding and go through that process, but at least we're requesting it.
Right, exactly. They can either they can fund it, partially fund it, or they can kick it back and ask that we look at other interdepartmental transfers.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, moving into old and new business, updates on Central Park. Mike?
Just as an update on the Central Park sidewalks, the Board of Selectmen did a letter of support, as you remember, for the Architectural Access Board asking for variances on a couple of the access points to get some relief from the disability laws. The Architectural Access Board met on April 25th, I believe. They granted one variance and they denied another, and then there was another that they felt didn't require a variance, that it was okay the way it was drafted. So the work is being paid as part of the special permit of the Woodlands development. So that developer is paying for the engineering costs and the construction costs. Without these variances, it's probably going to add additional cost to the construction. So we need to kind of sit down and see what our next step would be. The first meeting with the Architects Access Board is just themselves. They'll get the package, they review it, and they make their own decision. If you are aggrieved by their decision, you can ask for an appeal hearing, and the town or the representatives can actually go down to a hearing and make an oral argument before the board. So that's what we need to, we have 30 days to determine whether or not we want to appeal that, and I think if we get involved, town solicitor and engineers from David Ross Associates, and try to determine how much additional cost would be with this denied variance, and whether it's feasible to go for an appeal, or whether we could try to work it in the construction process. So the project is moving ahead. They're looking to get the sidewalks replaced this season, but we do need to deal with these ADA laws. Both the two approvals that they needed was in Mass Historic Commission, because it's a historic park, and also the comply with all ADA Massachusetts and federal regulations. So we dealt with that on High Street. The topography of the land here, we've got a lot of hills, and it's difficult to make hilly sidewalks totally compliant. And there were two entrances. The entrance here by the town hall and the one by the old post office were going to be totally accessible, all the ADA laws. And we're asking for some minor variances on opening by the police station and the opening here at the top of Church Street. The building inspector wrote a letter of support, the Disability Commission wrote a letter of support, the Parks and Recreation Commission wrote a letter of support, the Board of Selectmen, and the Center for Independent Living and Working in Worcester, where they review these requests as well, and they sent a letter of support. So the disability town officials and the disability community all supported these variances. However, the Architects Access Board did deny one of them. So So we'll try to get an update for the next board meeting as to whether or not we feel it's feasible to ask for an appeal and go down and make that oral argument, or whether we can try to work it out in construction. So it's just an update on that process.
I've got a question.
Sure.
If that gets denied again, if you go and appeal it, that doesn't cost the town any more money, right? That's what Mr. Bufano was paying to have this done, is that correct?
Right. Yeah, I think and I don't know about the legal issues about the permit or what he's obligated to do, but at this point, he has agreed to take on all the engineering and the construction. Now, if this permit, this variance is denied and it adds a huge cost to the project, I don't know what his reaction would be and how that impacts the permit. That's what we'd have to sit down and take a look at to see what it would be done. But he is required to do the sidewalks, but with being a public park, it also has to comply with the disability
Right.
laws, which is difficult.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Next up, we have the annual town meeting warrant. We did have one non-money article, an update, I guess, for our two new board members, is that we're waiting on the Senate numbers from Boston and to act on the full warrant, but I think tonight we could act on Article 26, which is one of the last non-money issues that's on the warrant that we could vote on and place on the warrant. Actually, excuse me, it's a citizen's petition, so we don't even need to act on it. It's already on. I didn't realize it was citizen's. So, what I would like to do is accept a motion to close the warrant as advertised, and we had mentioned it at a previous
So moved.
meeting. Is there a second? Any discussion? None, all in favor?
Aye.
And then again, what we will do as a board is we'll go through each article based on after the Finance Committee gives their recommendations.
Mr. Chairman, I was going to ask again, if it's feasible and we can do it, to maybe get together again with the Finance Committee like we did last time and...
Yeah, what I'd like to do, Selectman Mr. if I'd like to appoint you to the subcommittee on the budget process. We're going to have a subcommittee. We have a subcommittee of 2 members of each, the Board of Selectmen and 2 members of the Finance Committee that meet and try to find a middle ground on the whole budget process, and then as liaisons bring it back to both their Finance Committee and the Board, so that we can try to get as close to a balanced budget as we can, and then obviously be able to publish the budget and get that information out to the public prior to the meeting. So we'll be meeting next week as a subcommittee.
Okay.
And we're hoping to hear back from the Senate and really within the next week or two. They were supposed to be by the first week of May, and what their numbers are, and then we really have to go from there. And it's a difference between the Senate numbers and the House numbers as far as local aid and Chapter 70 funding, and that's where we'll kind of put our target for what we need to shoot for as far as revenue for the community. We have all of our, or lack of free cash, but we know what our local aid and local revenues are going to be. So we're getting close to being able to finalize what our ability for expenditures without override will be at. So.
Yeah, and just to follow up, Mr. Chairman, the House of Representatives did pass an amendment to the budget which added additional Chapter 70 education aid in the amount of about $32,000 for the town of Clinton. So hopefully going through the legislative process, we are getting some added revenues there. So now the MMA is just analyzing, the House did their budget last week, so the MMA is now analyzing all those amendments and trying to see where we're at, and then go to the Senate and try to advocate to accept those same line items. If the Senate includes the same language as the House, then it automatically stays in the budget. If there are differences, it goes to a conference committee. So if they can accept a lot of these similar articles, I think we can be fairly confident that it would be in the final budget as well too. So like you mentioned, hopefully over the next week or so, we should be able to get a better handle on that. So.
And then the plan would be, once we have the numbers, is to try to set a town meeting for probably the middle of June or the end of probably the second week of June, just because of graduation and people that begin to start traveling as you get later into the month of June. So I'd like to have a couple of weeks to have the budget out there and viewable for people. Absolutely. So,
That's one of the big concerns that people are not getting.
yeah. And just not to gloss over Article 26, because I think it's an important one, it is to put forward an administrative bylaw review committee that the town moderator would appoint, and it's to have no fewer than 5, but no more than 7 members. This is something that the town solicitor was in strong support of, and basically piggybacks off of the hard work that I think the charter folks put forward, and maybe we can, again, garner some fruits from the efforts that you folks did do, Joe, and look at different things that we could maybe change and improve upon within town government. So hopefully the town will support that at town meeting. So,
There's certainly a lot of good in there.
absolutely. So, okay, so moving on, other old and new business. We did get good news from Federal Emergency Management Agency in regards to the blizzard that we had back on January 22nd and 23rd, where DPW superintendent put in for emergency funding. We were able to receive $68,253.06 associated with the snow and labor costs in regards to the snow and ice account, which does run in a deficit year after year. So, and there will be a earth removal, moving on next point, earth removal permit hearing for our next scheduled meeting on May 18th on Fitch Road. Notice will be given out to the abutters and the appropriate people, Michael.
Yeah, those have already been sent out. We're getting
Okay.
all the green cards back now, and this, just wanted to include in this packet for the board, for all the board, and especially the 2 new members, which will be the first hearing that we're going through. So we'll give 2 weeks for everyone to be able to review. There's a map in there, as well as a letter from the engineer and the butters list and the hearing notice, so it gives time for everyone to review it before the hearing the next on the 18th. So.
How many homes are going to be?
I think approximately 20 homes. I think the development will be for 20 new homes in that area.
Has that already been approved?
No, it's not yet approved by the planning board. My understanding is that they're before the planning board tonight, I think, and the engineer want to go there tonight and then to the selectmen on the 18th. So there's some question as to whether or not if there's an approved subdivision, if you actually need an earth removal permit, if you already got an approved subdivision, because it's implied that you're going to be removing and bringing in and removing material for the development. However, this has not yet been approved, and the engineering firm has called and asked that we move it along through the process, so it would require then a permit from the Board of Selectmen.
Next, Selectman Yakabuchi has retired, so I will, as far as committee reports, just make mention of the fact, I think, Steve, were you there?
I'm on the committee.
Okay, go right ahead.
We got a recycling committee, we're another good recycling committee day. I want to thank Sheriff Gloders also for sending workers out, so we're able to help with the lifting, help clean up the DPW, everything, that was kind of nice. But again, people, utilize this, so I want to thank Mark for his hard work once again, and for the people who come for using it, because that's what makes it successful when people come in and use it, so it was a good day. The rain held off, thank God, because we almost got soaked. Other than that, we went well, so again, thank you to the public for using that.
Thank you, Steve. Any other committee reports? And the chair has no updates at this point in time on the insurance subcommittee or the finance, other than the budget subcommittee. We'll try to meet next week sometime. I'll be in touch with the chair of the finance committee, and we'll nail down a date, and I'll get hold of you. Buzzy. Any public comment? There is no public. There is, but they're not making any comments. Any members of the board have anything to say?
I just want to congratulate the 2 new members, and looking forward to working with you, and hopefully we can keep things rolling like we have been. Congratulations, guys.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Sure.
I would also like to echo those sentiments from Selectman Brazillo. I'd like to congratulate Joe and Bob for their tremendous victories on Monday. I look forward to working with both of you during this 3-year term. And if there's anything that I can do from a legal standpoint to assist you in your duties as town fathers, I would be glad to help you in any way, whether it be together or individually, especially with the earth removal permit coming up. If you want to talk to me before that meeting, I can walk you through the bylaw and some of the legal considerations they may want to consider in making your decision. But in any matter that's facing the town from a legal matter, if you want to meet with me privately or in a public forum or whatever you want to do, I'll be glad to do that to help you fulfill your duties. So I look forward to working with both of you.
Thanks.
No other comments? Take a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Aye.
Welcome, gentlemen. See you in a couple weeks. 18th, yeah.